Coming up, Bobcat Goldthwait joins Illeana in just a minute.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
And now, it's the I Blame Dennis Hopper podcast, starring Illeana Douglas. Eavesdrop with Illeana as she interviews Hollywood's most prominent players about filmmaking, acting, and what really happens on the set of your favorite flicks and TV shows.
Hi, I'm Illeana Douglas. Welcome to the I Blame Dennis Hopper podcast. I'm here with my lovely co-host, Tamara Berg.
Hey, everybody.
My guest today, I'm thrilled that we could work this out. He is a comedian, an actor, and a director, of course, of our favorite movie of all time, Shakes the Clown. I followed you at IRS. I was editing there.
Oh, my God.
And they had posters everywhere.
What picture
there.
were you editing at IRS?
It was called, it was a short film for the newly started IFC. It was called Boy Crazy, Girl Crazier. But wait, I have many, many more credits, of course.
I won't interrupt.
Don't interrupt your intro.
I've seen all your specials, An Evening with Bobcat Goldthwait. Yeah, and then I rewatched them. That's the great thing about YouTube now and Apple TV.
Wow, you really did a lot of homework.
I really had fun because I hadn't seen them in years. You're very funny. I loved Is He Like That All the Time. Highly recommend that.
Well, thank you.
I thought it was fantastic.
Thanks.
I loved it. Of course, the Police Academy franchise. I'm not as familiar with it. I have to say, I'm sorry. Scrooge,
which unfortunately will be my obituary.
Scrooge is
No matter what I do, it'll be a picture of me in a
World's
police
Greatest
uniform.
Dad. I
Thanks.
love a fantastic
Nice.
film. I also
Thanks.
work with Daryl Sabera.
Yeah, he's
wonderful troubled actor. No, he's good.
No, he's great.
He directed the Jimmy Kimmel Show. Of course, Marin, the Willow Creek. I have not seen that, a horror film.
You know, it's fun. It's a found footage movie, and it's shot on the same cameras that you guys have here.
Oh.
And that, I don't like found footage movies because I'm always like, who found the footage and re-edited it? Who said, hey, I'm sorry your family got raped and killed, but I think if we recut it, we have a tremendous picture here. You know,
Yes.
so the movie is really only 67 edits in the whole film, which normally a movie's got about 1,200 to 1,400 edits. So I wanted the conceit that it really was you were watching the footage.
Yes.
And then there's a take in there that's 19 minutes long.
I have not seen that film yet.
It's a scary Bigfoot movie.
Of course, I've seen all of the Maron episodes, which I was briefly on. Again, playing myself, which was so hard.
Do you get nervous playing you?
Yeah, because it's not me. The world has an identity of me. That I'm very hip and cool. I'm more like Aubrey Plaza. I'm like an older Aubrey Plaza. But in real life, I'm not.
No, you're more of a dingbat.
Yeah, I'm a nerd. I'm a movie nerd. I'm very,
Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah,
Where did the world come up with this idea that you were?
I don't know. And in fact, I remember when I went to the set and I had they had picked out all these hip Illeana Douglas clothes for me to wear that I would never wear. And you said, bless your heart, you were like, I want you to wear what you're wearing.
Yeah.
Which was like a YMCA T-shirt that I'd fashioned into a halter. And a something I actually got from a haunted house. I know we're talking about haunted houses. But there was a haunted house near us when we were growing up, and my friends and I broke in, and there was a trunk. It was kind of what we're like, there is stuff in here. And in the trunk, there was all these women's clothing.
Wow.
So I salvaged that.
So you have
still have it. I still
haunted
wear it.
pair of pants?
I don't have haunted pants. It was a woman. Just so haunted. You know why it was haunted? Because you may be interested in this, maybe not. But it was in Connecticut where I grew up when they started to build the interstate in 69, 70, 71, they just went through people's houses.
Yeah.
So there was empty houses sort of near the freeway. Anyway. I segue. Okay, I'm so off topic because I'm excited that you're here.
I'm just uncomfortable when people give my resume, but then I'm frustrated when people only know me from Police Academy. So maybe I should shut up more.
That's always a tough thing, and we were discussing before Wikipedia, which is not really true and decides what things. They take things from magazine articles and then make it seem like you said it, or
Right.
so it's kind of frustrating. None of it's really true. The only way to really find out something about someone is probably to date them and go out.
Yeah, but not after the first date. It's got to be 3 or 4
But I always
dates,
laugh.
right?
I'm like, well, how does Anonymous have more clout than me?
Yeah.
About
but-
you.
About me.
About you.
Yeah.
Not much of it is true. Anyway, a change of subject.
All right.
We always begin the show by asking what was the first movie you saw and who took you to see it, because I believe I can glean insights from you.
I do believe the first one I remember going to was Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, and I was so little, I didn't see it ironic. I thought it was really an important film about the environment. You know, I told my mother I did all the scenes in the kitchen for her. But I remember our neighbors, the Tools, had taken us to the drive-in, and it was like we were watching The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and maybe A Fistful of Dollars. But all the kids fell asleep immediately, and I stayed up watching them with Mr. Toole. So there was 5 kids asleep, and I was sitting there, and I watched it. I watched, and then there was another Western that wasn't Clint Eastwood. I don't remember what it was.
And this was in, you grew up in upstate New York?
Syracuse, New York. And I grew up, I always talk about it, but I grew up with Tom Kenny, who's the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants and the voice of a million other things. But we met when we were 6. We were in the same Catholic school, but in different classes. And my nun couldn't take me anymore, and she dragged me into his classroom. She was crying, and I was crying, and she's like, I can't take him, and left me in his class. And I thought I wouldn't see my friends anymore. I was really upset. And Tommy thought it was really cool that I could make a grown nun cry, so he introduced himself at lunch.
And a friendship was
Fast
forged.
friends forever.
Now, why? I'm just curious why did you have an option not to go to Catholic school, or
It's kind
growing
of
up?
interesting. I didn't, or to me, it's interesting. But I went to Catholic grammar school. Then my dad was a sheet metal worker, and when tuition was nothing. It was like $500 or $1,000 something. But then he was a real strong union guy, and he was a strike. So we were going to public school. So I went to public school briefly in 9th grade, and I could tell I wasn't fitting in. So I became a janitor at my high school to pay for my tuition.
That's already troubling.
No, you get a lot of tail as
See,
the
where
janitor.
I grew up, the janitor was like,
Yeah.
maybe had special needs.
Yeah.
Like you didn't want to really.
Yeah, it wasn't. I never.
Did you wear the uniform, the weird
No.
hunter green uniform?
No, but I did have keys, which would come in handy when I. Yeah.
Oh my God! And you're reminding me. I didn't know that.
But my ego was always like, I was just like, why wouldn't kids like me? It was not, I didn't think that would be something you would look down on.
Yes.
I always have been like that. Like, obviously the same makeup most entertainers who have a big ego and super insecure, but I always
Right.
had this confidence that I was like, so why wouldn't they like me? I mean, it was really strange. Like Tom Kenny and I just realized there was a girl in our class who had 2 hooks instead of arms, and they were picking teams. You think that's funny? No.
Well, no, you have that thing where it's like I would laugh.
But so they were picking
regardless.
teams for dodgeball, and there was 3 people left. Tommy and I just discussed this. So it was her, he, and I. And they picked her over Tommy and I as the last 3 people. And Tom says, that was the day I knew I would never be good at sports. And I thought, really? Because I thought, they know we can handle this. And they were helping Linda. Like I always had this crazy, weird defense. Mm-hmm. It's very strange.
Well, you had a larger, maybe sense of the world.
No, because most entertainers are like, or comedians, I should say, it's just like someday I'm gonna be famous, and some do it for money or fame or women or drugs or whatever they want. But my whole thing was I was kind of really liked in high school. I wasn't that outcast, but I was really angry. So even when I started doing stand-up, my stand-up it wasn't even doing stand-up. I was a bitter 15-year-old that was, I did a lot of comedy. My early act would just be me reading a Dear John letter and then start crying, and I'd be like, and then I go back to an act. I go, my wife is so fat. How fat is she? I go, I told you I don't even have a girlfriend, and and that would be it. You just see this kid crying on stage, so it was always, and then I got booked on Letterman when I was 20, so suddenly I was a headliner, and it messed it up because it was like I was making fun of comedy, and I was thrown into being a comic. It was strange.
So you had to change up your act a little bit.
Kind of, yeah, and I did. But then later in life, now, I just tell stories, which sounds kind of boring. I hope I entertain people, but I'm no longer. I still write jokes here and there, but it's what we were talking about. So much happens on an hourly basis. You can't even write a Trump joke because by the end of the day, something more spectacularly insane will happen. Like I had written. In Trump's defense, those Russian hookers had been stung by jellyfish. But that joke's already dated, you know what I mean? So it's just so crazy. There's such a turnover. Yeah.
It's so topical. Now, what's fascinating about you is, let's see if I can actually bring this together in doing my research, is that you transitioned a persona, a comedian that had a persona, and some of the people that I'm fascinated with, like somebody like Jerry Lewis, was unable to transform. He was so successful, he had this persona, Jerry the idiot.
Yeah.
And as he got to be 40, that's when all of his movies started to weirdly tank.
Right.
Because he was unable somehow, and I've always been fascinated by that he was unable to transition. But you've got this character, like you're...
But it was funny, even like back when I was doing that persona, when I was a much younger person, I would make jokes about that, that I'm not going to age gracefully. I was aware of that, you don't want to see me...
But that must have been scary.
To realize that if I, being they say, being an angry young man is cool, but like a angry... then when you're an old guy, it's okay to be angry again. But in between, it's
That's
just
funny.
unpleasant. It's just, So I knew that I saw the writing on the wall. I did not want to be the age I am now, like in comedy clubs going, ah!
Yeah. What was the first time, do you remember, when you went into it, did you think, I'm going to have this persona, or
No,
it just happened?
but I
and
would
you
just
said,
always do different things instead of just doing me. I was really uncomfortable with the idea of just coming out and talking and being myself. So there was always, the persona that people kind of knew me for, if they're familiar with me, was a guy. It's weird that I ended up doing a Bigfoot movie because that first time I did that character was a guy who had seen Bigfoot. And he was stammering and he was obviously having a rough go. And then it just morphed into, I said, well, I'm going to have that character do my stand-up. It'll be a lot easier.
Yeah.
It was a nice defense, hid behind it.
Did it scare you? Was one more successful than the other? Was doing the voice more successful than being you?
Yeah.
Was it like a, you have a dummy where you're
that didn't bother
jealous of your own voice?
No, because that didn't bother me because I could, my daughter, when she was really little, she was once, I was on TV and she referred to it as, that Bobcat, like she knew it wasn't me. It wasn't me. So I kind of felt good that I wasn't that kind of person that brings it into the family and all that stuff. But I had I set the Tonight Show on fire, but before that, I'd smashed up the Arsenio Hall show, and it cost thousands of dollars of damage. It was way worse. We recently watched it, and because I was
Can you believe it that you did that?
When I watched it, it was just like I thought, yeah, I remember I smashed up the set, but when we see it, it's way worse than you think. I really smashed up the set. And
now, is that adrenaline, or
no?
What
just
causes you to have?
At that point,
guts?
I was just kind of like trying to not. If we get really heavy, I just kind of.
We can go there.
No, I just kind of got over being trapped in this persona the frustration of I wasn't. Some people think I was high or something, which is weird because I got sober when I was 19. So I've been, I was full of rage a lot. But so I was just just kind of like, I liked Andy Kaufman, but I kind of started to get in this dangerous place where I thought, well, what if I didn't know what was going to happen? What if I said, okay, I'm going to go out and smash the set, I'll do this and that, but I didn't have an end, I didn't have a blow, I didn't have a kicker, So Arsenio got replaced, or they got rid of his series, so I spray painted Paramount Sucks on the backdrop of the show, and then I threw the mattresses from the thing, and then I smashed this monitor. It was like $3,000, put my Doc Martens through the back, and then I was grabbing something else, and then Arsenio tackles me, and as we're rolling around on the ground, he whispers in my ear, he goes, "Thank you." I was just like, there is no rules, so I was at home again with my daughter. I think she was 9, Tasha, and we're coloring, and the news goes on, and it says, "Comedian goes berserk on the Arsenio Hall show." And Tasha goes, she goes, "Sometimes you act like you don't have a brain in your head." And so Eric Idle, his daughter Lily, they grew up together, Lily and Tasha, and I go, "It's just comedy." And Tasha goes, "It's not comedy. It wouldn't be on the news." Lily's dad's never on the news.
But it's interesting. You have, don't you? I noticed a symmetry with that. You're friends with a lot of comedians that they want to be. I'm guessing now. I don't know. I could be wrong, but it's like they want to be around you because it's like hanging out with a bad kid, like you.
Oh, that's funny. I don't know. Yeah, that is strange. But yeah, I have a lot of friends and that are comics over the years, and I don't know what
I think people admire that. Who wouldn't want to go on a talk show? Because to me, what it represents is the stupid formality. It's fake. I don't know this person. They come on.
Yeah, everything about it, and
sit on the couch.
And definitely, when I was a kid, people like Johnny Rotten or Keith Moon and those people.
Right.
But it's funny. Python was that to me too. They would go on a talk show and destroy it. I remember seeing the first time I saw them. They were on Mike Douglas, and they came out, and Mike Douglas, who couldn't ad-lib a fart at a baked bean dinner, was reading these cards that are prepared, and Python, the guys are just slugging each other and knocking each other off the couch, and he's like going, "How did you guys form?" And I was like, "Oh, I like these guys." It's funny that Robin became my friend too, because I remember seeing a Dick Cavett interview, and he took the cards away from Dick Cavett, and then he went out in the audience, and there was a reporter, and he grabbed the reporter's notes and started reading them, and they were great notes. They were like, enamored with his own cuteness or something like that. Yeah, so it was great, and I was like, oh, anarchy, So it is weird that they became my friends. I don't know. I didn't seek them out. We just kind of would show up. I mean, when I first met Robin
Williams.
Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't say Robin Williams. I was playing a club in Boston, and at that point, I would just wear all this eyeliner and makeup and leisure suits, and the club owner's like, "Robin Williams coming tonight. We're in Boston," because I don't want him to see you. So I'm standing in the kitchen, and I'm just standing there, and then he comes in trying to get away from me. He's like, "So what are you doing in the kitchen?" I was like, "They didn't want me to meet you, And then by the end of that year, I'd moved to San Francisco, and he started coming to shows, and we just kind of became pals,
Well, I could see you inspire. I mean, do you garner inspiration from other comedians? See, I like hanging out with comedians. I'm not a comedian, but some of the most fun times I've had because it exercises my brain to try to.
It's weird. I'm
be
not
funny and
I'm
verbal.
not like the life of the party. I'm not someone who's on. I do tell stories when I get going, but I almost feel it's the direct opposite. I think a lot of comics, there's a comfortability around me where I'm not on, and you can drop our guard. I think that's why I have a good many comics as friends.
Yeah. Now, I did have to bring this up because when I was doing my research that you opened for Nirvana.
Yeah.
Now, when you're opening for Nirvana, do you have to change
up your act?
Well, I started to think of that famous Albert Brooks routine about, Richie. For those, Google it, Albert Brooks, Richie Havens.
So I was in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and my friend, she went on to become my friend Ray. She was promoting the show I was doing, and Nirvana was playing at a small bar, and she said, "There's this band, and the lead singer is a big fan," and so I ended up interviewing him on a college radio station. And then I ended up buying them lunch too.
You bought Nirvana lunch?
Yeah, this is before Chris was in the band. And then Kurt gave me a copy of Bleach, and I put it in my rental car on the way to the airport. I was with my friend Tony V, and we were like, these guys are good. And I remember going, the music industry is impossible. These guys are great, and you'll never hear from them again. And then smash cut about a year and a half later. I was opening for them in arenas.
Wow.
But he was a fan, which is always... He liked my stand-up, which is startling for some people. It's like finding out that, Jimi Hendrix really liked Buddy Hackett or something. But Kurt liked my stand-up a lot. And I had been doing, I did a show with Cheap Trick, and he found out about that and wanted me to open for them. So then I went on the road. I would do stand-up when it went well. Sometimes I did a lot. When it didn't, I'd still even do more. I would punish the audience. This is a point in my career where I was really so over it that I found it kind of funny to go out and just get a reaction. And when I tell this story, like, I truly wouldn't do this today because it is cruel, but I was in Chicago. Michael Jordan, this is the first show I did with Nirvana. Michael Jordan had retired from basketball, and we were traveling in, and the band and myself weren't quite sure what was going on because everybody in Chicago, they had like homemade signs. We still love you, Mike. Come back, Mike. And like I said, I wouldn't do this today, but I went out and I was like, I go, hey, Chicago, I feel bad for Michael Jordan, but for $40 million a year, I'd shoot my own dad in the fucking head.
Oh.
And this is in Chicago, and there's this noise, and it's not even boo. It's just, ah! Like, it's just rage. Like, I wish I had a sample of it. It's just, ah! Like, there was more people waiting to beat me up after the show than there were to meet Nirvana. They had to put a towel over my head and lift me up and just throw me in the van. And as I walked by Kurt after I introduced me, he's like, I can't believe you said that. Yeah.
But there's a kind of, you admire the person. When you're a comedian, that's what you have to take this risk, and I think that's what keeps.
I remember like hanging out with some nights and just being up all night, and we would just tell stories, and there were always all the stories would end with like one of us getting escorted out or the police coming. It was just like it was like some kind of weird poker game, like
So how do you transition that? Personality. Well, I'm skipping ahead a little bit because you start acting and so the persona again is it you or is it the persona that's in the police academy?
It's definitely the persona, and it's also like I got in those movies when most people were going into college. I was probably like 22, 23, and I don't. Who would regret being in a movie and people want to work and stuff. Yeah, but then. There's, that little voice in me was always going, I'm really not happy doing this. Like and sometimes it was even more than a little voice. It'd be me, and I can't say that I'm a victim, but it's very strange. It's like I knew what would make me happy, but I didn't listen to it, and you get caught up in making money and I spent years on the road cashing in on that persona long after it was funny or anything to me, and I when I was there's two times where I kind of quit stand-up. At one point I said, I'm going to stop really tearing people apart for no reason. Because when you do that, you get it's very lucrative. I thought my targets have to warrant my attack. And so I said, if I don't get work, I don't get work, but that's what I'm going to do. And then I did that for a while, and my act shifted. But then I just finally said, I say this, it's important to quit, a lot. You just keep quitting until you end up someplace you don't want to leave. Mm-hmm. And I did. I just quit. I stopped. I aggressively sought not going out on auditions. The things that weren't making me happy. Mm-hmm. And so when I was directing the Kimmel show, and I got that because Jimmy was always believed in me. He was really nice when nobody was giving me a shot. And then I shot a movie with my ex-wife that I shot for, we used a crew from Craigslist, and we shot it for $20,000. She read the script. She goes, "This is a good script," because I didn't even know if I could write anymore because I was just so beat up. And we went and shot it, and they got into Sundance, which was crazy. So,
What film was this?
It was called Stay when it was at Sundance, but Sleeping Dogs Lie. It's a rom-com with a tiny bit of bestiality in it. So, and that kind of changed, and it's funny, I just keep, I'm out of order, but the last movie I did was a movie about my friend Barry Crimmins, a really brilliant political satirist who was raped as a kid, and then as an adult, when he was looking for other survivors, he just found AOL had all this child pornography trafficking, and the feds didn't do anything, the police didn't do anything. So he posed to some kids, got all this evidence against AOL, and then took AOL to the floor of the Senate at a Judiciary Committee meeting, and kind of. And he's also changed so many lives, and he's changed himself too. So I said, this is the movie I'm going to make. Now, it's really funny because it was just a movie because I love Barry's story and I love Barry, and I made it. But it's really strange that suddenly this year, everything after making that movie, people's perception of me as a storyteller has changed. I did not make the movie so people's perception of me as a storyteller would change, but I have noticed it. It's much different. And it's nice. It's really strange the world's going to hell, but I've never been, I'm really in a crazy spot where I can tell stories and make a living. And because for a while I used to say I don't do stand-up to make a living. I do stand-up to make movies. Now
are you in a position where you're nervous, where you can't get too safe? Like, don't let too much of the old craziness go away, because now that you're a serious director.
For me, what's funny is there's certain stories that I know I'll make that I'm drawn to, but the scary thing for me is to be willing to be a little more accessible.
What's so funny, because when I met you on the set, I was like, I didn't know. Well, I'm a nervous person anyway. I always suss out, like, is he going to be like, or is he going to be, it's like, oh, he's on medication now, so he's not like
they're not present.
He's like very serious now, so don't reflect on being funny, or he is funny, But that's just me. I'm trying to suss out what the tone of what we're doing is always, what I try to do. Now I want to go back to, we can't dismiss Shakes the Clown. Because again,
well, it's the 25th anniversary.
What?
Oh my god!
And we just had a screening downtown at the Regent.
Oh,
and
fantastic!
It was really cool. It was surprising, to have people show up.
It's like Bad Santa ahead of its time.
Well,
sort of.
Thanks. I ahead of its time. I don't know. Tom Kenny and I were watching it, and there's people dressed as the characters, and they were yelling up the lines. And Tommy goes, "What's this movie about?" I go, "I have no fucking idea." Like.
Well, I thought it's almost making fun of comedians. They're just clowns.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
But don't comedians refer to themselves as clowns in a sense?
Well, I mean, there was a lot of people never caught that, but I was trying to make fun of stand-up comedy.
Stand-ups.
And I was really angry when I made the movie. One of our cinematographers when we were filming, I remember him taking his eye away from the lens. He goes, "Oh, I get it. We're just filming everything you're not supposed to film."
No, like I mean, I'm gonna take a wild guess that you're doing Hot to Trot. You're in some kooky outfit.
100%, yeah.
Which we all find ourselves in. You're like, I'm in safari in Vietnam.
Hot to Trot was the worst.
Not really.
That was a talking horse movie I was in, and Robin's like, "So how's it going?" I go, because they would hit the horse in the mouth with a stick to make it talk, and I really love animals, so I'm already like so conflicted.
Great.
And he goes, "So how's it going?" I go, "It'd be like doing Mork and Mindy, and just as they said action, someone punched Pam Dauber in the mouth." It's the worst experience.
Well, so that's what I'm getting. So then Shakes the Clown is a darker reflection of, the life of a comedian, say, but now in a clown.
I don't know if I would have had Shakes get sober now when I just watched it. I think I was watching it, I go, I think I should.
Well, you wanted a happy ending. You're trying to make a traditional film, maybe.
Well, but to me, I thought that was funny to do a traditional movie and clown makeup and all this. And that what I learned was, like, once you set this world where, 3/4 of the cast is in clown makeup and they all drink in this bar, called the Twisted Balloon in Palookaville, I didn't realize this, that like 20 minutes in, everybody who hasn't left the theater is like going, oh, this is a real place. Like, I didn't understand that part of filmmaking.
Yes.
That it just, so the joke was over for some of them, you know. But for me, just a guy in a clown suit at an A meeting is funny. But, you know, sometimes people go, well, there's no jokes. And it's just like, you know, I always steer away from joke-driven comedy. I just never find that funny.
So where it grabbed hold was cut to me in New York, and Martin Scorsese is cutting Goodfellas, and he always has to have a movie on while he's cutting a movie. And he and Thelma, a picture, if you will, Thelma with white gloves, you know, edit, because it's old school editing and editing. And then they have Shakes the Clown on, and then they would turn and then go back.
So weird.
Go back to watch it.
So it was like a radio kind of. They would just play it.
No,
like,
Marty would always like to have images of other films on.
That's so funny.
And then,
that's crazy.
You know, he was I would be in the editing room, you know, looking, learning, or whatever, and then again with utmost seriousness, he'd go, "It's quite good. It's quite good. Actually, it's quite."
That's the craziest thing ever.
And, you know, and they would laugh, you know. So there would be...
The first I ever heard of that, there was an interview where someone was saying, so you believe every movie should be preserved? And he said, yeah. And he goes, you would save Shakes the Clown? He goes, I love Shakes the Clown. And he says, that's a very real world. It's very, very
so
me. He was really... And they said something, and he quoted this review, called it the Citizen Kane of alcoholic clown movies. And so I'm reading this article, and I'm just sitting there reading it and staring at it. And my daughter goes, "Are you okay, Dad?" I go, "Yeah." Well, I go, "I'm never gonna win an award." I go, "This is your dad's award." And I actually thought it was fake. Like I thought Tom Kenny had like.
No. When we met on Maron, I said, "I'm here to tell you." He would, you know.
That's crazy.
I mean, he loved all films. There was, you know, but there were certain films.
A buddy of mine went in for Departed.
And
he's auditioning, and he goes, and he stops the audition. He goes, "You're in Shakes the Clown."
You're kidding!
And my friend Tony calls me up. He goes, "Hey, I just met Marty Scorsese, and I ended up talking about you for 20 minutes." Like, he was really pissed off.
Did he get the job, though?
No.
Dang it.
No, it's funny because then I went to LA and I was cutting the short film, and they put me in an editing suite, and there were posters everywhere of Shakes the Clown.
That's so crazy.
So we had a good
that's insane.
had a good laugh about that.
Well, that's really funny because I guess it was. When I saw it the other night, I realized, oh, this is a noir movie. That's what I was doing. You know, often I don't even understand what I'm going for. That sounds weird. Now I'm a little bit better at mashing up genres, but you know, that's what does interest me. You know, to take two genres and kind of mash them up. You know, it's like. You know, I jokingly called Stay a bestiality rom-com, but that's really kind of what it is. But then, like, not that bestiality is a genre, but then, you know, like Willow Creek, which is a scary Bigfoot movie, is actually really about. It's a relationship thing, but it's really about men and what they're afraid of. So, I mean, that's what interests me.
Well, and so now going back, that's what I found fascinating is that Shakes the Clown comes out. It doesn't really do well, but it becomes kind of a cult classic. Right. And then you retransition yourself by directing live television.
Yeah, but that came about, you know, Jimmy asked me to direct. He had the show, The Man Show, and he asked me to come on. And I couldn't get a job directing, and I wanted to. I wanted to direct anything, and I couldn't get a job directing anything. Commercials or people who were fans of Shakes, bands would want me to direct their videos, and I couldn't even do that.
Does that mean you can't get approved? Like,
yeah, I couldn't get approved. You know, everyone thought I was crazy too. I didn't help or hurt my cause too much. I mean, I didn't help my cause too much. So then. You know, Jimmy asked me to come on and direct segments and over there, and he said later on, he goes, "I was really afraid. I didn't know, you know, but I was like always on budget, and every day it was like triage. You know, it was I would be editing in 3 or 4 different bays, and one thing would be a commercial parody shot on film, and this would be a man in the street. So, the hours I spent there was really where I learned, hopefully, what I'm doing. And then he asked me to direct the Kimmel show, which was live at the time, and it was a talk show. And I went.
Ironically.
Yeah, and I went in. Yeah, I know. I was like, ABC did not promote that I was. There's like, the guy who can't get on other talk shows. He's driving our bus. So I started directing his show. He said, "Do you think you can do it?" And I says, "Well, it's I could see the show, and I said, it's really like landing a plane in Chinese. But I also knew what Jimmy wanted, and he wanted a relationship with the director, so there'd be funny cutaways. And I thought, yeah, I could do that. So, yeah, I directed live TV for 3 years, like 300-some episodes.
Admirable, because that's sketches and...
Yeah, like anything with Jimmy in it, most of the stuff with Jimmy and I would direct, and then I would direct the live show. And when it was live, it was really fun. And then when towards the end, it was taped, and then it was being... done in a different way, and I think it's really smart. I think Jimmy's really smart, and I think that's why he's a success, and the show's a success, and the producers and everything. But it as much as I loved having a job, it was starting to feel like a job towards the end, and I think that's not fair to him. But we're still pals and stuff. But I would do stuff that I told the story on the show because I don't think he knew it. When I was directing the show, what is the band that everyone hates? I shouldn't say that.
The band that everyone hates.
Nickelback. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, they might be nice guys, but their manager came in the booth and he goes, "Who's the director?" I go, "I am." He goes, "Don't shoot Chad profile." I go, "Who's Chad?" And he's like, "Our lead singer." And I go, "Well, why can't I shoot him from the side?" He goes, "Because he has a large nose." And I go, "Okay, I won't shoot Chad from the side." And I'm laughing like I am now. And the cameraman can hear my conversation in the headset, and they go, "Pussy." So we get to the show, and the band will do 2 songs, and as it's going off the air, that was during the second song, and I said to the assistant director, I go, "Kathy, tell me when I have 10 seconds left." She goes, "Okay." And she goes, 10 seconds. And I go, "Shoot the nose." And 7 cameras zoomed in, 6 actually, out of 7 cameras zoomed in on this guy's nose. And I made a nose montage. And then we went off the air. And then the camera guys go, "Hey, man, what are we going to do now?" I go, "I'm getting in my car." So then that's the kind of stuff I would do. And sometimes Jimmy would laugh and the producers would laugh. And then other times there was apologies to be made and re-edit. So it only went out to the East Coast, that version. Yeah. I said 6, not 7, because the 7th, there was this big wide angle, so then they just suddenly cut to this wide angle during the nose montage. So I did that, which was really, it's really strenuous, but at the same time it was, it kind of gets you to be kind of calm on a set, once you've done a live television show. Yeah. Like that. And I would always, because I saw the other directors, and there's one guy who was yelling, and I saw him yell to the point where he ended up having a heart attack. And so, besides being bald, I wear hats a lot, but on the set often I'll wear goofy hats. Like at Kimmel, I'd have a different hat on every day because it would be different, it'd be a Pope's mitre or whatever. But it was like, it was so I wouldn't lose my temper. Like if you're screaming at people in a sombrero, you're a douchebag. It's like, right. let's not forget who wears the fez here. So and one day I was on the Kimmel, directed on the Kimmel show, and I was mad, and I threw my hat down, and I marched down to the set, and Cleto, the band director, goes, "Oh, he's mad, he's not wearing a hat." Oh. So I think it's kind of important for me. I mean, I know there's people who can get performances out of people by terrorizing them or controlling them. Yeah, I don't know but I mean, I try to hopefully, especially when it's something I've written, I only want to work with people I'm collaborating with. I don't want to be pulling the wool over talent's eyes or getting, I just want somebody we all get this. We're all aiming for the same thing.
Yeah, I agree. I want to get to World's Greatest Dad, because that's a film I really like quite a lot. And
thanks.
And so tell me, because it's an interesting story how Robin Williams got involved in the film.
Oh, well, yeah, Robin thought he would play a small part and help me get the movie made, and then he read the script, and he says, "I'd like to play the guy." And I was like, "Really?" Because people knew we were friends. I was like, "Look, if if I was going to write a movie for Robin, I'd have stayed away from English teacher. I think he's done that pretty well. So
Dead Poet Society.
Yeah, so he came on board as the lead, and it's funny, like we did know each other 33 years before he passed away, but I'm on the set the first day. I'm like, is he going to listen to me?
Yeah.
Is it going to be like, hey, can you bring this down? And he'll be like, I have an Oscar and you're in Hot to Trot, but it wasn't that at all. It was really, we spoke shorthand. We really had fun. I listened to a Gus Van Sant commentary, and he had said kind of the same thing. Like sometimes he would ask for other takes and really not change things up. Mm-hmm. And that was the experience we had. It was just like it would be really subtle changes. It wasn't like he'd suddenly be ad-libbing a new scene or jokes or something.
When you're working with a funny persona, is there a responsibility to feel, to me, it's always this pressure of funny people playing dramatic roles. Do you have to monitor them? Like, that's too funny?
No, I think... Or
they just know?
I don't think I know. Robin saw himself as an actor first, which is really funny.
Well, he went to Juilliard.
Yeah, and he really did. I mean, that was what he saw himself as, and that's what he took really serious. No, but when we were making that, I said, you don't have to make any. I go, we're going to see how quiet you can be. You don't have to make anyone laugh but me because I have headphones on. And then a couple days in, he's like, I'm playing you, aren't I? I go, that happens to me a lot of the movies I make. Joel Murray, he's like, so I'm playing you. I go, I hope not. But.
And what about one of the things I love Daryl Sabera's performance in this film. And I worked with him. He was on my show, Easy to Assemble. I saw him in this film, and then he came on board. He
came in and he kind of stayed in character and was this really, really shitty teenager. And I called around and I was like, "What's that guy like?" And they go, "He's really nice. What are you talking about?" So he came back and he thought he was going to read another scene, and he had prepared. And I was like, "No, I don't know. People say you're really nice, but I'm afraid you might be a dick." And he's like, "Oh no!" And he dropped the character, and and Daryl went on to like become a little bit part of my family. Like I'll see Daryl, and we'll go out.
He was a child actor.
Yeah.
What is the movie with
the Spy Kids?
The Spy Kids, yeah.
But, yeah, and then.
But I love his chemistry with Robin Williams, and I'm not intimidated by him.
I know
at all.
It was funny because we didn't rehearse, but I did have Alexi and Daryl just spend a lot of time with Robin. It was about 4 or 5 days of just hanging out nonstop, just so they could get over the fact that they were working with Robin. And there is some scenes that didn't make that movie where it was a little bit more ad-libby. But I would say they're almost, so that's not too pretentious, they're almost like acting exercises. It was like both you guys really have permission to say the worst things possible. But there was one scene where they got so nasty to each other that there was no coming back. Like you were never going to like Robin again, and you were cheering for Daryl to die. So I had to cut it out.
Oh my God.
It was really rotten.
He's such a, he's playing a flawed person. So he's playing a flawed person. So do you think you're a flawed person in terms of your relationships? I mean, you seem to have a great relationship with your daughter.
I mean, I hope I'm flawed. I mean, I think we're all flawed, but
is that worrying about being a good dad, or he is a without being
that's
too much of a
interesting.
spoiler?
Yeah, I always know that's always been something that was.
I think
that's the biggest thing in my life.
My parents never were. When did that? My parents never were. We were great parents. I'm like, you dropped acid and did. We never had any money. I was starving. We were great parents. Like, it's the opposite now. Everyone's so worried.
It was funny.
My parents think they were great parents.
When my dad was growing up, especially as a teenager, I actively knew my job was not to be your friend, but to be a parent. And I think the byproduct, and I didn't plan on this, is that now we're really good friends, Mm-hmm. And she's a I'm very proud of her. She's a costume designer. She works all the time. I think I think this doesn't even just apply to Los Angeles. I think all across the country, parents are really trying to be the cool parent or trying to be liked by their teens. I remember my daughter when she, because a teenage girl, I was like, yeah, well, this is what's gonna happen right now. You just not going to like me for a few years, and then you're going to come back. And she's, you can't give me permission to rebel. I go, well, I just want you to know I'm not taking it too personally. She's like, you're mind fucking me. What are you doing?
But you made did you make you made him a son, you didn't make him a daughter. You should do a father-daughter comedy.
Yeah, I wrote one.
That could be funny. Father-daughter road trip.
I wrote one.
But you might have to be in it.
She read it, and she was just like, I go, oh, what do you think? She goes, what I think? She goes, this is my life, I wrote a movie about, it was just too, as they say, too inside baseball. I wrote a movie about a guy who's, he's pitching a movie, which is like it's this really dark movie that's kind of like the flip side of It's a Wonderful Life, where a guy understands how the world's a worse place because he was born. And he's pitching it, and he's bombing, and then he looks and he sees these Santa Claus movies, and so he ends up, as a last ditch, he pitches Easter Dad, a movie about the dad finding the true meaning of Easter. Like, he doesn't know even what he's saying, and of course, he's stuck writing this crappy movie, Easter Dad. And it's really about my daughters and my relationship as I was making and doing things that made me really unhappy, and raising her at the same time. So, but I write a lot of scripts, and I don't write them in a way that, oh, I'm going to make this movie or this is going to reinvent me. I just get these stories out of me. It was funny. I said to Tasha, I go, when I die, you can have all these scripts. She goes, you can't get them made. Why do I want them?
Do you like other movies? I always call them awkward comedies, like Elaine May and Albert Brooks. Those tend to be my favorite.
Yeah, it was what you were talking about Shakes when I met Carl Reiner. I said, where's Papa? I go, I was like, that's why I wrote Shakes a Clown. And he goes, it didn't make any money. I should have told you that.
I know. Isn't it funny when because I met Carl Reiner too, and you mention a bomb and they don't. Yeah. It's not like
which is funny because and I try to be respectful of people. Like, I have the baggage of what it was like to make, and let's say the movies I was in. So I try to be respectful when someone comes up and they like the Police Academy or Hot to Trot or something like that. I try to, but because I don't want to knock their legs off. But it is a little bit like Groundhog Day. You're stuck in this thing that this person doesn't realize that they're the third or fourth person that you had the same conversation with that day.
I know.
And you try to be polite. Right? So what's yours? What's your Police Academy? What do people come up and...
Probably like Pluto Nash is, with Eddie Murphy.
Oh, I
was like, it's the every other. I was in the other.
Oh, okay.
Like there was a period where he'd be in a huge hit, and then the other one would be the bad one, and I was in Pluto Nash.
That was funny, Robin.
Or the new guy. People love the new guy, and that was
another. Well, Robin would say
teen comedy.
He did the Beard movies, which would be his drama, and so when we started World's Greatest Dad, he's like, so this is a Beard movie where I'm not wearing a beard. I go, yeah, that's it, the Beard movie.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, unfortunately, we have very little time left, but I do briefly want to get to Willow Creek. The search for Bigfoot.
Scary Bigfoot movie.
And then I went back because you had mentioned this the legend of Boggy Creek.
Boggy Creek is that was
which I sent to our mutual friend Danny Farrington, and he goes, "Why are you watching this?"
Well, here's what I liked in Boggy Creek is the very little Bigfoot. And it's scary when Bigfoot,
good sound effects.
And when Bigfoot puts his arm through that door, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
And so,
do you believe in Bigfoot?
I
mean, we've all seen the footage.
Well, the Patterson Gimlin footage.
Yes.
You speak of. That's why I shot Willow Creek. I went to where they shot the Patterson Gimlin footage.
This is a great story
location.
that you went there and they wouldn't. Their whole source of income in this area.
Like it's Bigfoot. And then we talked to this one woman and she's like, I don't believe in Bigfoot. Like she was really. It's like
It's like going to area
51, or just, or
then move.
or showing up at Disneyland. So, Disney exploits its workers. You know, I mean, it's just this sour woman who was there. She's in the movie, so I used a lot of real folks.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to ambush them. I was just trying to get them. Sometimes I let them know what we're doing. Sometimes I didn't, and so I think they lend it to makes it feel a little more real. But yeah, you know, I've gone to Bigfoot conferences. We shot a short at a Bigfoot conference.
I can't believe there's a conference.
Oh, there's
for
many.
Bigfoot.
We were at the Ohio Bigfoot conference, but I was at a conference.
Is there one for Loch Ness Monster too?
I don't know. Come on, that's not real. I know. Well, that's what I find fascinating.
What is
in our short that we shot is people talking about other, you know, cryptozoology zoology characters, and they'll be like going, it's like, hey man, I don't have time for Mothman. You know, I'm yeah.
Wait a minute, I just had a flash. Here we go with your first movie was Godzilla
versus Smog Monster.
And you're doing a Bigfoot movie.
Well, I do want to do a giant creature film. If not, like, I'm doing this new series on True, and I tackle one, and I feel like doing that in camera, you know, the movies like them, where some of us are rear projected, but to do it like it might be just a giant kitten movie or a short or film.
My favorite sort of horror mystery film is The Incredible Shrinking Man.
Yeah.
It makes me really cry.
It's so sad. It's the
it's
saddest.
The weirdest. That's a movie I saw repeatedly as a kid on TV, and then one day I was a grown-up and it was on television. I was bawling at the end. I was like,
I guess,
this is
you know,
so sad. We used
the
to love
worst
it.
thing is like not being seen, you know?
He can't. He's getting smaller and smaller. You know that cat worked all the time.
That cat from there?
Yeah.
Well,
that cat. I want you to do a movie about that cat.
That cat, what
was
happened
in
to
Breakfast.
him?
He was in Breakfast at
Tiffany's?
Tiffany's.
Really?
Yeah. We always have a thing in movies like we're
Wow.
mean to cats. What is it about you know?
Cat from Outer Space is a bit of a jerk.
He was in the cat movie. He owned the baseball team with Ray Milland. That's the same cat.
Well, you know,
Ajax was his name.
I love that you know the resume of this cat.
you know how Tarantino has his wheelhouse of
Illeana.
grindhouse films.
Yes.
Mine is that live action '70s Disney, like the computer wore tennis shoes, the world's greatest athlete. Now you see him, now you don't. The Cat from Outer Space, $1 Million Duck. You know, those are my. And I know someday I'll do that. I'll make one. I've flirted with my friend Charlene Yee about I might make The Invisible Dog someday. It's not what you think. It's about an invisible dog. So, you know,
I love that idea.
I just love those movies. You know, you would be a great Sandy Duncan. Maybe you should be in The Invisible Dog.
I love all those movies. I started watching because, again, we were hippies, so we weren't allowed to. We didn't watch Disney or anything. And as a grown up, I've seen movies like Swiss Family Robinson.
Yeah.
And they're fantastic.
There's a real strange thing. A lot of them have Kurt Russell in them too. There's this I really have a soft spot for those.
And Dorothy Malone. As the mom.
And Dean Jones. I would like to. I think I will make one of those kind of pictures someday. You know, I just want to make all these different movies. I write a bunch. I'm always trying to make them, and that is why I'm happy doing the series, because it's an anthology show. So each week I get to do completely different mashups of tonal things.
Yes. Okay. This was amazing that you've been here. I know you have to go because you're working on many, many things. Is there anything you want to mention you're working on, or
no? I don't.
It's been a blast having you here. I really
have me
appreciate
back,
it.
and I'm sorry that I'm in the middle of editing.
No, you were a big get for me because I was more so than Peter Bogdanovich or other. No, because I think that again, in terms of show business, it's exemplary to be an actor transitioning to be a director. It's something I aspire to do, and it's very challenging.
Yeah,
you know.
I think, did you talk to Peter about Jerry Lewis?
Oh well, yeah. I've worked with Jerry, and and I'm fascinated by personas of I'm always saying, like, when you look at people. I remember my friend, and I, we'd see Jack Carter, and we were like, imagine that's your whole career. Like we were like aspire. That's your whole career. You're the guy who wobbles with his legs, or you're Foster Brooks. There's no room in our society for persona comedians.
I'll end with one story.
Sure.
This is a Jack Carter story. I don't know if you've ever heard this one, Emma. Jack Carter was very angry. He was very angry. I mean, he still could be alive. I'm not sure. So
he was angry in every Academy screening I ever saw him.
He's just right. So I'm going to the Christmas party at the Improv, and we're backing up, and he cuts us off and takes a spot. He's got a Mercedes with a vanity license plate that says Jack Carr. So he goes in. I follow him in, and I go get a screwdriver from the staff, and then I go out and I steal his vanity license plate. And while I'm taking his license plate, it's like boop. Cops come, and the cop recognized me. I knew I was not going to get in trouble when the cop looked at me, and I go, come over here. And the cop followed me. Like he should have said, shut up. So I explained the story.
The one with the gun.
I knew Jack Carter had a problem with me in the past too, which I don't know why, but he was just. So I said, yeah, guy's he's a big dick, and I took his license plate, and the cop goes, big dick? I go, yeah. He goes, keep the plate. So years later, I was doing a roast, and I didn't do roast material. I just came up, told the story, and then pulled the license plate out. Because I was going to just put a ski mask on and send him the license plate. Like, hey, fuck you, have a good time at the DMV. So I hand him this plate. Like, when I told the story and all the friars are laughing, but then when they really saw the plate, they went nuts. Because I guess he's a pain in the ass to everyone. And he took the plate, he actually threw it at me. So...
Oh, Jack Carter, may rest in peace.
Is he? I don't know.
Yeah, he is. He
slipped off the mortal coil?
I believe he has. Yes, I believe he has. But anyway, Bobcat, as we like to say on the show, everyone's life is a movie with a beginning, a middle, and an end, and this is the end of ours. Tamara,
you can
final
find
thoughts?
Bobcat on Twitter at BC
Yes.
Goldthwait and on Instagram, Bobcat Goldthwait.
Don't piss him off, Earl.
Thank you, Bobcat. You can also buy Illeana's book, I Blame Dennis Hopper. It's now out in paperback on Amazon and in bookstores. You should buy it. Also, like our page on Facebook.
Yes.
Check out our website, illeanaspodcast.com.
Go to Google, too, and, get all of Bob's movies, because you start to see, I see a transition of all the different movies. I love World's Greatest Dad.
Thanks.
I think that's my personal favorite.
Yeah,
but you see a through.
That's mine too. Out of all the movies I made,
But you see it's sort of a through line, and I love your perspective, and I hope to be in one of your movies.
All right.
All right.
You're gonna be
we
Sandy
heard
Duncan.
it here first.
You
All right.
heard it
Thanks,
here.
everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.